Imagine walking into a courtroom. Judges are seated, the gallery is packed. A defendant is brought before the court, except the defendant has been dead for 9 months. His body is decaying, his skin is falling from his bones. He's sitting upright on a throne dressed in papal robes. As unbelievable as that sounds, it actually happened. This is the story of the Cadaver Synod. Welcome back to Meals Done Alive For, the podcast where true crime, dark history, conspiracy, and food collide. I'm your host, Jody Breton, and every week we serve up the stories that are as disturbing as they are fascinating, paired with a meal inspired by the chaos. So grab a plate, lock your doors, and let's dig in. Today we're making arancini with marinara sauce. To understand how something this bizarre could happen, we have to travel back to the late 800s. At the time, the Catholic Church wasn't just a righteous institution. It was one of the most powerful political forces in Europe. Popes crowned kings. They chose emperors. They controlled vast amounts of land and wealth. And because of that power, the papacy was often consumed by bitter political rivalries. One pope could undo everything his predecessor had done, and sometimes that still wasn't enough. Our story centers around two men. Pope Formosus and his successor, Pope Stephen VI. Formosus had been a respected bishop long before becoming a pope, but his career wasn't without controversy. He had been deeply involved in the political struggle over who should rule the Holy Roman Empire. He supported one claimant to the throne, then later shifted his support to another. Those decisions earned him powerful enemies. When Formosus died in April of 896, most people assumed the controversy had died with him. They were wrong. Less than a year later, Pope Stephen VI decided that simply criticizing his predecessor wasn't enough. He wanted to erase Formosus's legacy completely. So he ordered something almost unimaginable. Formosus's body was dug up from its tomb. By then, it had been buried for around 9 months. The corpse was reportedly in an advanced stage of decomposition. Despite that, church officials dressed the remains in full papal vestments and placed the body on the throne inside the Basilica of St. John Lateran for a formal church trial. This proceeding became known as the Cadaver Synod, or in Latin, Synodus Horrenda, the Horrible Synod. The trial itself was surreal. Since a corpse obviously couldn't speak, a deacon was appointed to answer questions on behalf of the dead pope. Stephen VI loudly accused Formosus of crimes including illegally becoming bishop of more than one diocese and unlawfully taking the papal office. The charges were as much political as they were religious. Historians generally agree the trial was intended to delegitimize Formosus's papacy and undo the political decisions he had made while alive. Imagine trying to defend yourself when you've been dead for nearly a year. There was never any chance of acquittal. Predictably, the corpse was found guilty. The punishment didn't stop with the verdict. Stephen ordered that every official act Formosus had performed as pope be declared invalid. His papal vestments were stripped from his body. Then came one of the most disturbing details. The 3 fingers Formosus had used to deliver blessings were cut off. It was a symbolic gesture meant to erase his authority forever. Finally, the body was buried again, but not for long. Soon afterward, Stephen ordered the corpse exhumed a second time. This time, it was thrown into the Tiber River. If Stephen expected the public to applaud, he badly miscalculated. Many Romans were horrified. Even in an era accustomed to political violence, dragging a decomposing pope from his grave to stand trial crossed a line. According to medieval accounts, rumors quickly spread that miracles began occurring after Formosus's body was recovered from the river. Whether those stories were true or simply reflected public sympathy is impossible to know. What is clear is that public opinion turned sharply against Stephen. Only months after the Cadaver Synod, Stephen VI himself was overthrown during a popular uprising. he was imprisoned. Then in 897, he was strangled to death inside his prison cell. The man who had put a corpse on trial didn't survive the year. The story didn't end there. Subsequent popes quickly reversed Stephen's decisions. The Cadaver Synod was declared invalid. The rulings against Formosus were overturned. His papacy was restored, his remains were eventually reburied with proper honors. Ironically, Stephen's attempt to erase Formosus from history accomplished the exact opposite. Today, Formosus is remembered largely because of the grotesque trial meant to destroy his reputation. So why did this happen? Despite the shocking imagery, historians generally agree the Cadaver Synod wasn't about religion alone. It was about power, control, and rewriting history. By putting a dead pope on trial, Stephen hoped to invalidate Formosus' appointments, decisions, and political alliances. If the previous pope had never been legitimate, then everything he had done could simply be erased. It was political revenge taken to an almost unimaginable extreme. More than 1100 years later, the Cadaver Synod remains one of the strangest legal proceedings ever recorded. A corpse dressed in royal robes, a dead defendant represented by a living lawyer, a guilty verdict that mutilated a body, and a pope whose quest for vengeance ultimately destroyed his own reign. Sometimes history is far stranger than fiction. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did, then please like, subscribe, do all the things. Personally, I love the Aracini, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.